2020 was the point of where we transitioned from R&D to commercial, and we sold our first electrolyzer, even though it was small, but to Northern Irish Water. There's more information on the website about that project, but in a nutshell, the oxygen was used for the water treatment, and the hydrogen was a byproduct at that stage. That led us to our growth and our move to where we are now, where I'm speaking from right now, is our manufacturing facility, and that growth continued to allow us to go onto the London stock market, raise over £30 million, get license agreements and etc. So that growth is still happening. So you can see the transition's been quite quick since 2020, and also the number of people have grown. So when I joined the company, we were only 6. Now we're nearly 60 plus, or maybe 55 to 60. We're around about that sort of number, and still growing. So it's been a really exciting time for us, and we're hoping that this journey continues. And what this journey looks like for us is that we had targeted by 2030 to be able to offer 4 gigawatts worth of production capability in different parts of the world. So our growth strategy isn't just export, it's also licensing, joint ventures, etc. And not just having facilities here in the UK, but also dotted around different strategic locations. So that 4 gigawatt would hopefully be a cumulative of all the facilities that we hopefully will develop as time goes on. But as you're aware, the hydrogen economy just keeps shifting left and right. So will that target shift with it? Maybe it will, but that's the aim for CPH2. So that kind of concludes the economy, the journey that we're going on as a business. So it brings you quite nicely to the technology. So the next few slides, I've tried to give an overview of the technology. I've tried to show the differences, and then brought it all together to give you an image of what the electrolyzer, how the technology works, and a video that supports it. So you're just not listening to me continuously talk. Hopefully, I have a video to explain the technology at the end of it as well. So summarized, what we offer is our technology is an MFE, so membrane-free electrolysis. The model that you see is a 1 megawatt electrolyzer, and that's the plant that we're offering right now. We will hopefully scale up to 2 megawatts and multiple designs that are out there, similar to what's out there, 5 to 10 megawatt blocks, but we're not at that stage yet. We're transitioning to that stage. Our output, as mentioned in the top corner, is that we offer 450 kilograms of hydrogen a day with 3,600 kilograms of oxygen a day. And now, the next few slides will go into a bit more detail of the technology, but at high level, we use cryogenic separation to separate the hydrogen and oxygen. We don't have any platinum group metals, and that's mainly in the stacks because it's membrane free. What that stack, taking out the platinum group metals, the stack complexity decreases. And what's also positive about not having platinum group metals is that we can be more responsive to the electrical fluctuation, because we don't have to worry about damaging or affecting the membranes. And potable water is an input that we can take, so we can take potable water, clean it up for electrolysis, and produce hydrogen and oxygen from that point onwards. In the green, it says 98% components are reusable, recyclable. What that means is because most of our components throughout the electrolyzer are stainless steel products or nickel-based alloys, they are reusable, recyclable. So there's no exotic alloys that are out there that need any sort of special way of disposal or special way of recycling. So now our patents are around the membranes, the membrane-free technology. So before I show you what our typical cell structure looks like, so I want to touch on the technologies that exist at the moment. All the electrolyzers that exist at the moment have some sort of catalytic or membrane separation technique involved, and each of these membranes is as I mentioned earlier, platinum group metals, and we know where platinum group metals come from. They have to be sourced from, they have to be sourced and dug out the ground, etc. So it becomes quite an unsustainable method of producing hydrogen over the long term, because the more electrolysis increases, the more the membranes will increase, the more digging, the more sustainability becomes an issue. So what we've got at Clean Power Hydrogen is a cell structure that doesn't rely on membranes. Number one. Number two, it decreases the complexity of the system because there's less components. So you can see all the cell structures there. There's multiple components in just one cell structure. So you can just imagine if that's one cell structure, the more bigger the stack, the more cells you have, the more components you have, the more chance of failure. And fault finding at the moment, as we know, with electrolysis can be quite tricky until the economy and the industry develops and the R&D happens. We're dealing with tricky ways on how to fault find stacks. So to simplify, what Clean Power Hydrogen have is a three component cell structure. And it'll make sense why that works with our technology. We literally have a front plate, a back plate, and a gasket, and it's all nickel-based alloys. So there's no membranes in there whatsoever. So you can see the sustainability side becomes much more viable. Also, you can see why we can potentially manufacture in different parts of the world is because stainless steel is readily available in all parts of the world, and you don't have to have long lead times. It doesn't become an issue on trying to source these materials. Stainless steel is readily available. And then the rest of the products throughout the system are typical products that most electrolyzers use. So valves, fitting, tubing, pumps, etc. So it's all typical balance of plant equipment. Now, how does that fit into our system as a whole? There we go, works perfectly. So this is the system, including the balance of plant. So obviously we have potable water. We do have a KOH mixture in it. So that's how we make them water conductive. So we mix water with the KOH, goes through the membrane-free stacks. So that's where the membrane-free comes into it. Now, the separation, what we do, we don't separate at source, we separate downstream. So when the hydrogen and oxygen is produced from our electrolyzer, it goes through two stages. It goes through a drying stage where the mixed gas goes into the gas dryers. Then from the dryers, it stays in the mixed gas form and goes into the cryogenic system. Now, the way we separate, I think I briefly touched on it earlier, we separate cryogenically. What that means is we lower the temperature of oxygen to make the oxygen from gaseous form to liquid form. So as you can imagine, it becomes heavy and that forms a separation. And then hydrogen stays in its gaseous form, and the hydrogen finds its way out, and then we regasify the oxygen and vent that on a separate line. So our main before I move on, I should say that the gases pass through a three-stream heat exchanger, which is patented as well, and that basically it's like an energy capture unit. So it cools the gases up and warms the gases down as the gases pass through the streams. And then we get hydrogen and oxygen as byproducts. Now, this form of separation, without having membranes, what it gives you two viable byproducts. It gives you the oxygen as well as the hydrogen. That's why Northern Irish Water were particularly interested in our technology, because the oxygen actually becomes a viable byproduct without having to be cleaned up. And that's a major cost saving in itself. So yeah, once the hydrogen is produced, I believe we produce it at 99.7% pure when it's separated. Then we can go through a deoxy unit to polish it even more to give you 99.99% pure at the end. So that's how we separate our hydrogen and oxygen to give you the final byproduct at the end. So membrane-free electrolysis, we don't separate at source, we separate downstream. And yes, we do have a mixed gas stream, but the dryers are vital in that whole system, because they make the take the moisture out of the gas, which makes the gas more easy to separate at the cryogenic process. And the water, as I said, we use KOH to make the water conductive. And then hopefully the video works and everyone can hear it.
How does the electrolyser work? Water is fed in, mixed with electrolyte, and travels to the stack where the chemical reaction happens and the gas is generated. The mixed gas continues its journey through the balance of plant to the dryers. Powered by renewable electricity, the stack is fed electrolyte that contains hydroxide ions dissolved in water. Water in the electrolyte is consumed by the electrolyser and is separated into hydrogen and oxygen gases by electricity. Put simply, the water molecules on the left show the hydrogen and oxygen atoms joined together. On the right, you see the molecules after being zapped with electricity. The wet gas enters the dryers. Desiccant removes the water from the mixed gas stream, and gas continues its journey to the cryogen for separation. The cryogenic system is where the oxygen and hydrogen are separated. The separated gases are passed through the purity meters. The gas purities are measured and passed for use in an application or stored. For small installations, the whole process takes place in a purpose-built container, using renewable electricity, producing green hydrogen and medical-grade oxygen. Using green hydrogen to power and fuel everyday life will accelerate our progress towards a zero-carbon future. For us, for our children, and future generations. Find out more at cph2.com.
So yeah, that kind of summarizes the technology. Everything I explained just in picture form. So yeah, our key differentiator is that we use cryogenics to do the separation, not membranes. So the projects that we're working on at the moment, the collaborations that we have, as you all know, when a few years back, when the hydrogen economy kicked off in COVID, most of the interest was export, and most of the interest was from different parts of the world, rather from the UK. The UK's, as we know, the projects are hopefully going to start rolling in slowly but surely. So most of our sales went elsewhere. And we've got 1 megawatt projects in different parts of the world, which are hopefully all going to scale up to multi-megawatt. So they're all commercial pilot projects, if that makes sense. And then I've mentioned one of the biggest agreements that we've got to date is a potential 2 gigawatt manufacturing agreement with a partner out in Germany who will be building our electrolyzers under license. But that's, as I said, that's a long-term project, and that will give. So to explain our capabilities at the moment, we can manufacture maybe 8 to 10 megawatts here in Doncaster, with the Qamar coming on board potentially from next year or later on sometime next year. That will give us more capability. So we should be able to offer multi-megawatts worth of electrolysis 2024 onwards. But that conversation is still ongoing of what the supply chain will look like. And then there's potential other similar kind of agreements to be rolled out in different parts of the world. So we are scaling up. And where we are from a technology point of view is that we're actually, we've made, I'll go on to the next slide. So we've made 3 sales. And all these projects are being built. The Northern Irish one is built, it's been tested, commissioned. So we're in the process of doing that with hopefully at least 2 of these projects, maybe all 3, hopefully. As you know, the hydrogen economy just keeps fluctuating left, right, center, right? Hopefully all 3 of them before the end of the year, if not into 2024, with actual assets on site. So we don't have any electrolyzers on site at the moment, but hopefully by the end of this year, early next year, we'll have at least a number of sites on there which are producing hydrogen and their actual physical assets using membrane-free electrolysis. So we're really excited these next few months, early next year. It's an exciting time for the business. And that brings me to the end of the presentation. And I hope you enjoyed the first of many presentations with the HEA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Qamar. That was fantastic and really good to both dive into the technology and hear about rollout plans, etc. So I think we've not got a lot of time left, so let's dive straight into some of the questions from the audience. And actually, I think the first one resonates very strongly with things we were discussing before we started this conversation today, Qamar, about supply chains. So how are you sourcing your supply chains? What aspects of the UK? How's that kind of shaping up for you?
Yeah, the supply chain is building up quite nicely for us, but I think we're trying to be as UK as much as possible. But some components will have to come from abroad because the UK supply chain still is in development. It still has to develop to catch up with the rest of the market. But that hopefully we will get to that stage where we have a strong UK supply chain. So we're having to dabble outside the UK, and the supply chain is building up. As we scale up, hopefully the supply chain will scale up. So at the stage we're at now, the supply chain suits our capabilities.
Okay, thank you. So you've there's an invitation from another of our members, Parker Hannafin. So I'm sure you guys can connect on that offline. I guess it's a nice opportunity for me to just mention that we will be doing an HEA members networking session towards the end of the year, very much to meet these kind of needs for members at different parts of the hydrogen value chain to come together and explore collaboration opportunities. So watch out for that, and we'll share more news shortly. Then we've got a couple of technical questions, so we'll see how we go with these. So the first one is about the KOH mix and whether it's higher than for a typical alkaline system.
No, it's not. It's not higher than an alkaline system. It's within the same kind of percentages.
Thank you. Nice, short, sharp answer. And another one, which I suspect will also be a short, sharp answer. How do you ensure there is no ignition of the mixture of oxygen and hydrogen?
Yeah, that's always a question that comes up. But we've got multiple monitoring points. We're monitoring the temperatures, the pressures. We've got multiple safety points all the way through, and also taking the moisture out of the gas is a very important part of it. That's why the drying process is quite an important process in this whole in the whole balance of plant. So we are totally aware of that, and because we've taken the membranes out, we've engineered the system to deal with a mixed gas. Whereas if you have a membrane and if you have a failure of a membrane that degrades or corrodes, there's a potential of mixed gas happening there, and that potentially can go undetected. So what we've done is engineer a system that deals with mixed gas. So that's how we deal with it, because we know what's happening. So all the safety protocols are in place to keep an eye on that. Sorry, that was a bit longer than short and sharp.
No worries. I'm sure the audience is appreciating. So I know you had a graph about the growth.
Yeah.
A question here about sales forecast out to 2030. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I can't go into too much detail, but our growth is going to be based on obviously the market demand, number one. Number two is how we don't want to scale up too quickly naturally, because there has to be a demand to grow. I mean, most of the projects, they want offtake. So the more offtake there is, the more we can build. So we are growing, and we're going to grow with basically obviously offering the 1 megawatt electrolyzer as the base. Then we're going to increase to 2 megawatts. Now the numbers will be dependent on what the market demand is. So I can't really give a figure of what 2030 looks like at the moment, because obviously it fluctuates. But what I will say is that, you know, we are growing as the market demanding grows, and the whole purpose of the German partner is to be able to offer us more production capability. Once we get that on board, then I think we can give you more accurate figures of what our capabilities will look like.
Thank you. I'm going to take one more question from the audience, and apologies you haven't managed to cover all of these, but I'll leave Qamar to perhaps liaise with attendees subsequently. So, and then one question to close the conversation. So about efficiencies. So efficiencies of the different technologies, how's yours compares? Be good to hear about that.
Yeah, sure. From end to end, the whole the electrolysis, including the balance of plant, we are around about the 59 kilowatts per kilogram at the moment.
Thank you. And then just a question to perhaps tie things together a little bit and bring us out from the detail of the technology. For you, what are the most important success factors for scaling up hydrogen in the UK?
Can I say this? Show me the money. Is that the right answer? I probably overused that terminology the last 3 years. Look, the reality is we have to. I think collaboration is key here, and allowing having a two-stream approach where you have big projects happening and also the smaller scale projects. And I think the Dutch government released something recently where they've got a fund of 250 million euros that is supporting smaller scale projects, and I think that's key to develop the UK economy, is not to forget the intermediate stages to get to the bigger projects. So let's have the big ones, let's have the small ones, and let's collaborate together to make this economy work.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think you're absolutely right that we need that mix of different scales of solutions, because as we know, small scale projects lead to big scale projects. And you also touched on offtake, and so making sure we have demand, I guess, is in the mix there as well. Super. Okay. We're out of time, and I know with this series we want to keep it short and snappy. So I'd love to say thank you very much to Qamar for a fantastic presentation and covering most of the questions. Thank you to our audience for coming and for the many questions that you've asked us there. I think it's made the session really interesting and interactive. As I said, this is the first in a series, so look out for news of what's coming next. And we have recorded the session, so you'll be able to dive into the detail later. And thank you for all that lovely feedback that's coming from attendees. Lovely. We'll look forward to seeing you off for the next one. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye for now.